Have you ever wondered what truly distinguishes a mediocre life from an extraordinary destiny? Is there a miracle, a secret formula hidden in plain sight that most people ignore because it is so simple, yet so hard to practice? Imagine standing before a massive door separating the person you are today from the person you long to become. The only key to unlocking that door isn't money or connections. It lies in the alarm clock ringing at 5 a.m. every day. This is not just a story about waking up early. It is a story about reclaiming control over your life while the rest of the world is still fast asleep. To demonstrate this immense power, I want to tell you about the inspiring journey of a man named David, who rewrote his destiny, rising from a shabby security booth to the pinnacle of his career. The story begins during David's difficult youth. Back then, he wasn't a successful entrepreneur or a respected financial expert. David was merely a night security guard at an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city. His life was a vicious cycle of deprivation and exhaustion. With a meager salary, he constantly struggled with monthly bills, lived in a cramped, rented room, and looked toward the future with anxious eyes. David often watched luxury cars glide past his guard post every morning and wondered if he would ever be behind the wheel of his own life, or if he would forever remain an outsider watching others succeed. He felt trapped, no higher education, no special skills, and it seemed society had already decided his place at the bottom of the hierarchy of needs. But then, a change arrived not from a lottery win, but from an old book he happened to pick up about the habits of the world's most successful people. David realized one common trait among them: they all mastered their mornings. He realized he couldn't change the past, nor could he immediately change his current circumstances, but he could change how he began each day. David decided to make a bold commitment, what he later called a life or death pact with himself, to wake up at 5 a.m., regardless of rain or shine, and no matter how tired he had been the night before. David called the period from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. the magic hour. Why magic? Because that is when the world is completely silent. No honking horns, no ringing phones, no urgent emails, or pressure from bosses. It is the only time of day when the human mind is at its clearest and least distracted. While the city was still curled up under warm blankets, David was awake, splashing his face with cold water to rouse his senses and beginning his life-changing ritual. He understood that if he wanted to escape that guard post, he had to possess knowledge others didn't have and a will that ordinary people couldn't match. David strictly applied the 2-hour formula. This was the core strategy that helped him completely transform. The first hour, from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., was sacred time dedicated to learning a new skill. David knew he wanted to become an accountant, a profession requiring precision and logical thinking for which he had no formal training. During that hour, while everyone else was dreaming, David sat under a lamp studying. He started with the most basic concepts of debits and credits, balance sheets, and tax laws. The first few days were truly hell. Words danced before his eyes, and sleepiness threatened to knock him down onto the desk. There were times he wanted to slump over and sleep for just 5 more minutes, but he remembered the cold security booth and his bleak future. He would stand up, walk around the room, and continue studying. The second hour, from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., David devoted entirely to physical and mental training. He understood that a sharp mind cannot exist in a weak body. He spent 30 minutes running or doing strength exercises at home. The sweat dripping onto the floor at dawn was a testament to his relentless effort. The remaining 30 minutes were spent meditating or journaling, planning his day in detail. He visualized the person he wanted to become and the position of chief accountant he craved. This not only made him healthier but also built a mind of steel, ready to face any challenge in the workday ahead. However, this journey was not paved with roses. To maintain this habit, David had to strictly follow 3 core rules for success. The first rule was no negotiating with yourself. This was the most important rule. When the alarm rang at 5 o'clock, there was no lying down for one more minute, no telling himself it was too cold or that he had stayed up late. David viewed the alarm as a general's command, and he was the soldier who had to obey immediately. He knew that the moment he turned off the alarm and went back to sleep was the moment he failed himself. If he lost the first battle of the day, he would lose his whole life. The second rule was perhaps the most difficult socially. Go to bed at 9 p.m. to wake up at 5 a.m. with full energy. David was forced to sacrifice social gatherings, engaging TV shows, or mindless social media scrolling in the evening. Friends mocked him, calling him an old soul and saying he was living a boring life. But David ignored them all. He understood that sleep is the foundation of recovery, and discipline is not just about what you do in the morning, but what you dare to give up at night. He accepted temporary loneliness in exchange for long-term glory. The third rule was, persist through the first 90 days. Science has proven that for the brain to establish a new neural pathway for a habit, we need time. During the first few weeks, David's body protested violently. He felt sore, tired, and doubted himself. But he committed not to give up before the 90th day. And a miracle happened. By day 60, waking up became easier. By day 90, it became automatic. David woke up at 5 a.m. without an alarm, his body full of energy and a hunger to start his studies. As time passed, David's silent efforts in the dark began to bear fruit in the light. 2 years later, with the knowledge accumulated from hundreds of hours of morning study, David passed the accounting certification exam with excellent scores. He applied for a job and was hired as a junior accountant at a large company. But he didn't stop there. The 5 a.m. habit was maintained like a religion. While other colleagues arrived at the office looking drowsy and only truly started working at 9 o'clock, David had already completed the most important tasks of the day and continued to learn management skills. 10 years later, the scrawny security guard David was nowhere to be seen. In his place was David, the powerful chief accountant of a multinational corporation. He sat in a large office on a high floor, looking down at the city waking up, the same city where he once stood night watch. That spectacular transformation didn't come from luck. It came from a simple calculation David had realized early on. Let's do the math. If you wake up 2 hours earlier than others every day, you gain an extra 730 hours a year. If divided by a standard 8-hour workday, you have the equivalent of 91 extra workdays per year. Imagine, while an average person has only 12 months to develop, David and those like him have 15 months. For every year that passes, he runs 3 months faster than everyone else. After 10 years, that gap is 30 months, 2.5 years of superior effort. That is a massive competitive advantage that no one can bridge. David's story is vivid proof that your starting point is not as important as your direction and speed. He proved that we don't need to be born at the finish line to finish as a winner. All we need is self-discipline and relentless persistence. Waking up at 5 a.m. is not merely about being early. It is a declaration of will, an affirmation that I master my time, I master my life. Dear friend, perhaps you feel your current life is not as you wish. Perhaps you feel trapped as David once did in his security booth. But remember, every morning is a new opportunity, a blank sheet of paper for you to rewrite your story. Don't wait for all conditions to be perfect to start, because that will never happen. Start tomorrow, the moment the alarm rings. Do not negotiate. Do not hesitate. Step onto the cold floor, wash your face, and enter your own magic hour. Success is not a distant destination you happen to stumble upon. Success is a daily practice of discipline, a series of small but continuous victories over your own laziness and procrastination. It begins when the sky is still pitch black, when the rest of the world is still sleeping, and it is just you facing yourself, building the foundation for your future. Let the alarm clock become your most loyal companion, and let 5 a.m. be the launch pad that takes you to heights you never dared to dream of. Because if David, from a poor security guard, could become a chief accountant thanks to this habit, there is no reason you cannot become the greatest version of yourself. Wake up and change your life starting tomorrow.